Alrighty, for this part we're still doing distributive property, and again we're doing it without algebra tiles. So if you notice though, now we're dealing with a variable out front, and sometimes you could have a coefficient other than 1. So when you multiply, you now need to keep track of both of these variables. So this first example, we have x and x minus 1. So the first time we're going to multiply, it's going to be x times x. So we're doing it in the same order that we did the other ones. So x times x. And if you go back and look at your shapes, anytime we had an x times an x, the shape we were left over with is an x squared. So that holds true here. So x times x is x squared. If you think that's something you're going to forget, this is something that I would memorize. Then for the next term, we have x times negative 1. Again, just watch your signs and don't use the x to indicate multiplication. As you can see, we have variables in here, so it'll mess everything up for me. So x times negative 1 is negative x. And then our final result is x squared minus x. And just pretend that's a 2. So I would suggest pausing the video, do the first 3, that way I can stamp off or, give you some sort of sign that you're correct, and then come back to example 2. Alright, I'm assuming that you're done with the first 3, so finishing up our examples, we're going to multiply this negative y with everything within the parentheses. So I'm going to start with negative y times 3y. Okay, negative 1 times 3 is negative 3, and then we have 2y, so we have y squared. Okay, then I'm going to do negative y times 7, because that's my second term in the parentheses. It's positive, so I just need to write 7. And again, negative 1 times 7 is negative 7, and then I've got that y left over. So I'm going to just write this left to right. Right now we have negative 3y squared minus 7y. And then the only thing I would suggest is go back to your original problem. Make sure you didn't forget anything, because we still have to take care of this negative 2. Okay? Once you bring everything down, you need to make sure that you don't have anything to simplify. So I'm looking for any like terms that I can combine. For this problem, I don't see any, so this would be my final result here. Okay, so I think you're good to go for the rest of these. This is very similar to what we did for page 28, but again, you just have a variable that we're multiplying or distributing in front. So my suggestion is to finish those first 2, and then I do want you to do the word problems. I feel like if you just read the problem, it'll be apparent. So for number 1, and I'm realizing that a lot of this says perimeter. I want you to do area for this whole page. Yeah, so those were some typos. Okay. But again, if you want the practice of doing the perimeter, go for it. You are going to see stuff like that on your test also. But right now I just want to focus on area since we're distributing. So for number 1, I would suggest drawing your rectangle out and then figuring out what you need to multiply. Okay, so it tells me that the length is 9. Okay, so they gave you that part in words. And then we have the width is x plus 6. Okay, and now we need to find the area, which means we're taking one side and we're multiplying it by another, because the area of a rectangle is base times height. Okay, the way I have it written, I used x plus 6. And then we have 9 for my other length. Okay, from here you should be able to figure out how to multiply, so I'm just kind of helping you get it set up, but I'm not going to do any more on this page.